The Crossroads Cafe sat at the intersection of three major trade routes in the galactic hub, where species from across the known universe came to rest, refuel, and share stories. Maya Chen had been working there for 6 months, and she thought she'd seen everything. She'd served steaming plasma to energy beings, frozen methane cocktails to crystalline entities, and once even a living soup to a creature that communicated through taste. But she'd never served dragons before. They entered through the reinforced doorway, ducking their massive heads and folding wings tight against armored backs. 3 of them, scales dulled with age and scarred from countless battles. The cafe's other patrons fell silent, conversations dying mid-sentence. Even the perpetually chattering Kleexians at Table 7 stopped their gossip. Maya grabbed her order pad, though her hands trembled slightly. Dragons were legendary across the galaxy. Ancient warriors who had fought in wars that shaped civilizations. Most other species gave them wide berth, not from fear exactly, but from respect. These weren't just any dragons either. The intricate battle markings etched into their scales, the way they moved with coordinated precision despite their size. These were veterans of the Void Wars. The largest dragon, scales the color of old bronze, settled at the reinforced table in the corner. His companions, one midnight blue and another deep crimson, flanked him. The bronze one's eyes, vertical slits of molten gold, tracked Maya's approach. "Welcome to the Crossroads," Maya said, proud that her voice remained steady. "What can I get for you today?" The bronze dragon studied her for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Coffee. Black. The strongest you have." "Same," growled the blue one. The crimson dragon tilted her head, examining Maya with an intensity that made the human want to step back. "Do you have the Terran blend? The one from the Highlands?" Maya blinked in surprise. "You mean Colombian?" "Yes, we do." Not many non-humans ask for Earth coffee. A sound that might have been amusement rumbled from the crimson dragon's throat. "We developed a taste for it during the siege of Kepler Station. The human defenders shared their rations with us. Haven't found anything quite like it since." As Maya wrote down their order, the bronze dragon shifted, and she caught sight of something that made her freeze. There, on the thick scales of his foreleg, was an intricate tattoo. Not carved or painted, but somehow infused into the scales themselves. It depicted a phoenix rising from flames, surrounded by symbols she couldn't read but recognized the style of. "I'll get your orders right away," she managed, hurrying back to the counter. Her manager, a 6-armed Pentarian named Keeks, was already pulling out their heaviest duty cups. "Dragons." He whistled through his breathing vents. "Haven't seen their kind here in decades." "You handling it okay?" "Fine," Maya said, though her mind raced. That tattoo, she'd seen it before. Not exactly the same, but close enough to make her heart pound. She prepared their coffee with extra care, using the special high-temperature carafes reserved for species that preferred their drinks at temperatures that would melt human flesh. The Colombian blend filled the air with its rich aroma, and she noticed several other patrons turning their heads appreciatively. Carrying the tray required both hands and careful balance. The cups were each the size of small buckets, necessary for beings whose heads alone were larger than her entire body. She set them down carefully, the reinforced table groaning slightly under the weight. "Your coffee," she announced. "Can I get you anything else?" The bronze dragon lifted the cup, delicately, despite claws that could rend steel, and inhaled deeply. "It's been too long," he murmured. Then, louder. "Tell me, young human, how does one of your kind end up serving coffee in the Crossroads?" It wasn't an unusual question. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and their presence in certain sectors drew curiosity. "Student exchange program," Maya explained. "I'm studying xenocultural relations at the University of Terra. This job helps pay for it and gives me field experience." The blue dragon made that rumbling sound of amusement again. "Field experience. That's one way to put it." He took a long drink of his coffee, steam rising from his nostrils. "You're braver than most. Not many would approach a table of dragons so calmly. Should I be afraid?" Maya asked, surprising herself with the question. The crimson dragon's eyes glinted. No. We save our fire for enemies, not those who bring us excellent coffee. She paused. Though I sense you have questions, you keep looking at Thrax's marking. Maya glanced at the bronze dragon. Thrax, apparently. And his tattoo. She hesitated, then decided honesty was better than deflection. The phoenix design. I've seen something similar before. Thrax's golden eyes sharpened. Have you now? That's unusual. This marking is unique to the Dragon Guard of the 7th Fleet, earned in the Battle of the Burning Nebula. His voice carried pride and old pain in equal measure. Ona. Where would a human have seen such a thing? Maya's throat felt dry despite the humid air from the coffee steam. My mother has a tattoo almost exactly like it. Not on scales, obviously. But the design, the phoenix, the symbols around it. She's had it as long as I can remember. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the background hum of conversation from other tables seemed to fade. The three dragons exchanged looks that Maya couldn't interpret, complex expressions playing across their alien features. Your mother, Thrax said slowly. What's her name? Sarah Chen. Well, that's her married name. She was Sarah McKay before. The Crimson Dragon's cup hit the table with a crash that made everyone in the cafe jump. Coffee splashed across the reinforced surface, but none of the dragons seemed to notice. McKay, the blue dragon breathed. Stars above. Sarah McKay. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. You know her? Thrax leaned forward, his massive head coming close enough that Maya could feel the heat radiating from his scales. Know her? Young human? Sarah McKay saved my life. Saved all our lives, and if she never told you that story. His eyes narrowed. Then she had good reasons. The Crimson Dragon was already pulling out a communicator, her claws dancing over the holographic interface with surprising delicacy. If Sarah's daughter is here, if she's this far from Terra. She looked up at her companions. The others need to know. The oath bonds. Wait, Maya said, her voice cracking. What are you talking about? What oath bonds? My mother was a teacher. She taught elementary school. Thrax's laugh was like boulders tumbling down a mountain. A teacher. Of course she became a teacher. His expression grew serious. Tell me, Maya Chen, has your mother ever mentioned the War of Broken Scales? Or why a human would carry the mark of the Dragon Guard? Maya shook her head mutely. Then perhaps, Thrax said, settling back with his coffee. It's time you heard the tale. But first, when does your shift end? This is not a story for rush telling, and there are others who will want to meet Sarah McKay's daughter. The blue dragon nodded. Others who owe her debts that dragonfire itself couldn't burn away. Maya's hands shook as she checked her watch. 4 hours left in her shift, but suddenly that seemed like an eternity. Whatever secret her mother had been keeping, whatever connection she had to these ancient warriors, Maya was about to learn the truth. And somehow, she knew her life would never be the same. 4 hours had never passed so slowly. Maya went through the motions of her job. Taking orders, serving drinks, cleaning tables. But her mind was elsewhere. Every time she passed the dragon's table, she caught fragments of their low conversation. Words like honor debt and the lost fleet and her mother's name, spoken with reverence that made her stomach twist. When her shift finally ended, she found the dragons had been joined by 2 others. One had scales of deep emerald, the other pearl white, with an iridescent sheen. They all looked up as she approached, still wearing her work apron. Sit, Thrax commanded gently, gesturing to a chair they'd somehow procured that would fit a human. Chix has given us the private room in back. We have much to discuss. The private room was usually reserved for delicate negotiations between trading partners who needed discretion. Sound-dampening fields hummed along the walls, and Maya felt the pressure change as they sealed behind her. 5 dragons in an enclosed space should have been terrifying, but instead she felt oddly protected. The pearl-white dragon spoke first. I am Silas, And this is Corinth. She indicated the Emerald Dragon. We came as soon as Valara messaged. The Crimson Dragon. Valara nodded. We needed to see for ourselves, Sarah's daughter. You all knew my mother, Maya said. It wasn't a question. Knew her? Corinth's voice was deep and sad. Child, your mother is the reason any of us are alive. The reason the Seventh Fleet didn't become another forgotten casualty of the Void Wars. He shifted, and Maya saw he bore the same phoenix tattoo as Thrax. They all did. Thrax settled himself carefully, his bulk making the reinforced floor creak. 25 years ago, the Void Wars reached their peak. You've studied them in school, I assume? Maya nodded. Everyone knew about the Void Wars, the conflict that had nearly torn the galaxy apart when an extra-dimensional species tried to invade through tears in spacetime. It had taken the combined might of all known civilizations to drive them back. What your histories might not record, Thrax continued, is how close we came to losing. The enemy had learned to predict our movements, intercept our communications. Fleet after fleet fell into their traps. The Seventh Fleet, our fleet, was sent on what everyone knew was a suicide mission. We were to punch through enemy lines and destroy a crucial void gate, even though it meant we'd be cut off from retreat. The Blue Dragon, whom Maya had learned was named Razik, took up the story. We made it to the gate, but it was a trap. A bigger one than anyone imagined. Not one void gate but 12, and an entire enemy armada waiting. We fought. He shuddered, his scales rattling. We fought until our weapons were slag, our shields gone, half our ships burning. We were dying, and we knew it. And then, Valara said softly, a human ship appeared. Just one. A tiny research vessel that shouldn't have been anywhere near a war zone. Maya's breath caught. My mother? She was a xenolinguist. Silas explained. 23 years old, fresh from her doctorate. On her way to study ancient ruins in the Kalaris sector, her ship picked up our distress signal. The Pearl Dragon's eyes grew distant. Any sensible being would have run. The void spawn were everywhere. Our fleet was in ruins, and her ship had no weapons worth mentioning. But humans, Corinth said with something like wonder. Humans are not always sensible. Your mother analyzed our situation, looked at the void gates, and told us something impossible. She said she could close them. All of them. How? Maya whispered. Thrax's golden eyes gleamed. The void spawn communicated through frequencies that hurt most species to even hear. But your mother had been studying something called xenosonic patterns, how different species perceive sound and meaning. She developed a program that could analyze and decode any form of communication. She realized the void gates weren't just portals. They were controlled by a kind of song, a frequency that held them open. So she sang them closed, Valara said simply. She modified her ship's communications array, linked it to what was left of our fleet's systems, and created a counter-frequency. But here's the thing. Someone had to fly directly into the gate network to broadcast it. It was certain death. And I can. End quote. End quote. Maya's hands clenched in her lap. But she survived. She must have. Because we wouldn't let her die, Razek growled. This tiny human, this slip of a girl by our standards, was ready to sacrifice herself for a fleet of dragons she'd never met. You think we'd allow that? Thrax leaned forward. The entire Seventh Fleet, what was left of us, formed up around her ship. We became her shields, her armor. Dragons died by the dozens, keeping the void spawn from her while she did her work. And when the gates began to close, when the enemy realized what was happening and threw everything at her, his voice broke slightly, and Silas continued. She held the frequency for 17 minutes. 17 minutes of hell while we burned around her. But she never wavered. The gates collapsed, the void spawn were cut off from reinforcement, and what should have been our tomb became our greatest victory. The brass wanted to give her every medal they had, Corinth added, make her a hero of the Republic. But your mother refused. Said she was just in the right place at the right time, and that the real heroes were the ones who died protecting her. She asked only one thing, Valara said quietly. That we never speak of her role publicly. Said she didn't want that kind of attention. That kind of life. The Dragon Guard agreed, but we couldn't let her sacrifice go unmarked. So we gave her something else. Thrax touched his tattoo. The mark of the Dragon Guard. She earned it in blood and fire. The first human ever inducted into our ranks. It connects her to every dragon who bears it. An oath bond that transcends species, distance, even death. We swore that from that day forward, she and any children she might have would be under our protection. Dragon friends. Forever. Maya's eyes stung with unshed tears. She never told me, never even hinted. Because she chose a different life, Silas said gently. She went back to Earth, became a teacher as you said. Married, had you. Lived the quiet life she wanted, instead of the glorious one she'd earned. We respected her wishes, kept our distance. But we never forgot. And now here you are, Thrax rumbled, serving coffee at the crossroads, so far from Terra. Tell me truthfully, young Maya. Did your mother know you were coming here? Maya shook her head. We had a fight about it, actually. She didn't want me to take the xenocultural program. Kept saying it was too dangerous. We barely spoke before I left. The dragons exchanged meaningful looks. The oath bonds, Valara said slowly. She'd feel it. If her daughter was in the same sector as any of us, she'd know through the mark. She might even sense. A sudden commotion outside the private room cut her off. Maya heard Chiex's voice, high and stressed. Then another voice that made her heart stop. I don't care if they're in a meeting. My daughter is in there, and I need to see her now. The door burst open despite the locks, revealing a human woman in her late 40s. Her hair was silver-streaked where it had once been dark. Her face lined with years Maya had been too young to remember. But her eyes burned with the same fierce determination that had once faced down an alien armada. Hello, sweetling, Sarah Chen said softly. Then, to the dragons. I felt you the moment you entered the station. All of you. Gathering like this, I knew something had happened. Her hand went unconsciously to her left shoulder, where Maya now knew a phoenix tattoo lay hidden. I see you've met my daughter. Thrax rose to his full height, and one by one, the other dragons did the same. As one, they lowered their massive heads in a bow that their species reserved for only the greatest honors. Sister in scales, Thrax rumbled. It has been too long. Sarah's composed expression cracked, and she smiled, a real smile that transformed her face. Far too long, old friend. Though I could have wished for better circumstances for a reunion. She looked at Maya. I suppose you have questions. Questions? Maya laughed, a slightly hysterical edge to it. Mom, you saved an entire dragon fleet. You're a hero. Why didn't you ever? Because heroes in stories don't have to live with what comes after, Sarah said quietly. They don't have to wake up at night seeing the faces of those who died protecting them. They don't have to carry the weight of surviving when so many didn't. She moved into the room, and Valara shifted to make space. I chose to be your mother instead of a legend, I thought. I hoped I could keep you away from all of this. The universe has a way of bringing things full circle, Corinth observed. The daughter of the dragon singer, here at the crossroads where all paths meet, Maya looked between her mother and the dragons. Dragon singer? Sarah actually blushed. That's what they called me after. Because I sang The Void Gates Closed. Rather poetic for a bunch of warriors. You say that like you aren't one of us, Razek protested. You bear the mark. You shed blood with us. You are Dragon Guard, whether you chose to live that life or not. And now your daughter serves us coffee, Silas added with amusement. Perhaps blood tells after all. The reunion that followed was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. Her mother moved among the dragons with easy familiarity, touching a scarred scale here, murmuring a private word there. The warriors who had made hardened mercenaries flee in terror became almost gentle in her presence. Their rumbling voices soft with affection and memories. They talked for hours in that private room. Sarah filled in gaps in the story. How she'd spent weeks after the battle helping 10 dragon wounded, learning their culture, their language, how she'd studied the songs that dragons hummed to their hatchlings and found similarities to the frequencies that controlled the void gates, how that discovery had led to innovations in defensive technologies that were still classified. But I was tired, Sarah admitted, sitting close to Maya now, their hands touching. Bone deep. Soul tired. I'd seen too much. Done too much for someone barely older than you are now. When the war ended, I just wanted peace. Thrax finished. We understood. We all did. Some wounds can't be healed with medals and glory. So you ran away? Maya asked, trying not to make it sound like an accusation. Sarah squeezed her hand. I came home. There's a difference. I came home and tried to build something good, and quiet, and safe. I met your father, had you, and thought I could keep the universe and all its dangers at arm's length. She smiled ruefully. I should have known better. The daughter of someone who flew into hell wouldn't be content with a quiet life. Is that why you fought me about the program? Maya asked. Because you knew what was out there? Because I knew what it would cost, Sarah corrected. Once you step into the greater universe, really step into it, you can't go back. You'll see wonders that will break your heart with their beauty and horrors that will haunt your dreams. You'll make friends among the stars and lose them to the dark between. You'll have to make choices that have no right answers, Valara spoke up. But you'll also find family in the most unexpected places. Purpose beyond what any one world can offer. The chance to make a difference on a scale most never dream of. Like serving coffee to dragons? Maya said, attempting levity. Never underestimate the power of small kindnesses, Silas said seriously. Your mother's greatness began with answering a distress signal she could have ignored. Who knows where your path will lead? Corinth had been working with a datapad, his claws surprisingly delicate on the holographic interface. Speaking of paths, Maya, your university records show you're studying xenocultural relations with a focus on interspecies communication. Your mother's influence? Maya glanced at Sarah, who looked surprised. Maybe? I always loved languages, loved how different people could find ways to understand each other. I just never knew why I was drawn to it. Genetic memory, Razik suggested. Or perhaps the universe nudging things along. The Dragon Guard could use someone with your skills and heritage. Razik, Sarah warned. Peace, Dragon Singer. I'm not recruiting your hatchling, merely observing. But his eyes glinted with interest as he studied Maya. Thrax stood, the movement making the room feel smaller. It grows late, and decisions need not be made tonight. But Maya Chen, daughter of the Dragon Singer, know this. You are known to us now. The mark your mother bears extends to you. Whatever path you choose, wherever the stars take you, you have clan right among dragons. This is no small thing. One by one, the dragons touched their foreheads to Maya's hand. A gesture she'd learned in her studies that signified acceptance into a clan. The weight of it, the honor of it, made her tremble. After they left, promising to return tomorrow, Maya and Sarah sat alone in the cafe's main room. Cheeks had closed early, giving them privacy. I'm sorry, Sarah said quietly. For lying. For hiding. For trying to choose your path for you. Maya studied her mother. Really looked at her for perhaps the first time. Not just as mom. The elementary school teacher who made perfect pancakes and sang off-key in the shower. But as Sarah McKay, who'd faced down an alien invasion with nothing but courage and a gift for languages. Who'd earned the respect of beings that had lived for centuries and seen civilizations rise and fall. Why teaching? Maya asked. After all that, why spend your days teaching kids their ABCs? Sarah's smile was soft. Because every child I taught had the potential to be someone extraordinary. Maybe one would grow up to broker peace between warring species. Maybe another would discover the cure to a plague. Or maybe they'd just grow up to be kind, decent people who made their corner of the universe a little brighter. After seeing so much darkness, I wanted to nurture light. And if I wanted to be like you, the you from before? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then I'd be terrified every day. I'd want to lock you away where nothing could hurt you. But I'd also be proud. Because despite my best efforts to shelter you, you grew up brave and curious and kind. The dragons saw it immediately. Why do you think they told you the story? They could have kept the secret. So what happens now? Maya asked. Now? Now you finish your shift tomorrow because Kix doesn't deserve to be left short-handed. You complete your semester because education matters. And then... Sarah pulled out a small device, pressing it into Maya's hand. Then you decide. This is a Dragon Guard communicator. Keyed to their frequency. Encrypted beyond anything human or alien. If you want to know more, to maybe train with them, learn from them. They'll answer. Maya stared at the device. It was surprisingly warm, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. And if I decide to stay here, keep serving coffee, then you'll be the best damn coffee server in the sector, and I'll be proud of that too. Sarah stood, pulling Maya up and into a fierce hug. My brave girl, you were always going to fly far from the nest. I just hope to keep you safe a little longer. Mom, Maya said into her shoulder. I think I understand now. Why you did what you did. All of it. She pulled back. But I also think I'm supposed to be here. When those dragons walked in today, when I saw that tattoo, something just clicked, like the universe was saying finally. Sarah laughed, wiping at her eyes. Your grandfather used to say we had wanderer's blood. Never could stay in one place, always looking up at the stars. Maybe it just skipped a generation with me. They talked until dawn, mother and daughter, filling in years of careful omissions and half-truths. Sarah told her about the nightmares that still came sometimes, about the dragons who hadn't made it home, about the burden of being called a hero when you just did what needed doing. Maya shared her dreams, her fears about living up to a legacy she hadn't even known existed. When Chix arrived to open the cafe, he found them asleep at a table, heads together, the Dragon Guard communicator blinking softly between them. 3 months later, Maya stood in the docking bay of the Dragon Guard training facility on Kepler Station. The same station her mother had helped save all those years ago. Her bags were packed, her goodbyes said. Sarah stood with her, along with Thrax and several other dragons who'd become regular customers at the crossroads during Maya's final weeks there. Remember, Valara was saying, the training is difficult, but you have advantages. Your mother's linguistic theories have been incorporated into our communication protocols. You'll be learning from the foundation she built. No pressure, Maya muttered. Thrax rumbled with laughter. Pressure creates diamonds, young one. Or in dragon terms, it's what turns soft scales to armor. He looked at Sarah. She'll be safe with us. This I swear on my fire. I know, Sarah said simply. I've always known. She hugged Maya tightly. Call me. Often. Tell me everything. Even the parts you think will scare me. Even the parts about learning to ride dragons into combat? Maya teased. Sarah paled. Maybe not everything. The boarding call echoed through the bay. Maya shouldered her pack, the weight of the Dragon Guard communicator, a comfortable presence in her pocket. She looked back once to see her mother standing among dragons, all of them watching her with expressions of pride and expectation. She thought about the question that had started it all. A simple observation about a tattoo while serving coffee. How one moment of recognition had unraveled a secret that connected her to warriors and wars, to sacrifice and survival, to a legacy written in fire and song. As she boarded the transport, Maya touched her own shoulder, where fresh ink still stung. A phoenix rising from flames, surrounded by symbols in the dragon script. Not the full mark. That had to be earned. But a promise. A declaration. The daughter of the dragon singer was ready to find her own song. Behind her, in the docking bay, Sarah Chen watched her daughter disappear into the ship, and felt the phantom burn of her tattoo responding to Maya's new mark. The dragons stood with her in silent support, understanding the weight of letting go. "She'll make us all proud," Thrax said quietly. Sarah smiled through her tears. "She already has." The transport lifted off, carrying Maya toward a future that would hold its own battles, its own choices between safety and duty. But she wouldn't face them alone. She had the blood of heroes, the teaching of dragons, and the love of a mother who had once saved the universe and chosen to save her daughter instead. In the Crossroads Cafe, a new server fumbled with the heavy, dragon-sized cups, and Keeks patiently explained for the third time about the reinforced tables. Life went on, coffee was served, and stories were shared between species who had learned that sometimes the most extraordinary things came from the most ordinary moments. And somewhere among the stars, a young woman learned to sing in frequencies that could close wounds between worlds, her voice carrying the echo of her mother's courage and her own determination to make the universe a little brighter. One connection at a time. The Dragon Guard had a new member, and the galaxy would never be quite the same.